right, we are back with another edition of Digging Deep. Once again, I am joined by co-host Joe Gravel, who will likely be co-hosting these going forward with me or someone else, but Joe will likely be leading these. So last time we analyzed Kyler Phillips and Song Yadong. This time we're going to break down the main event of the first ever card on ABC, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. So before we get started, here's the tale of the tape. We've got Max Holloway. He's got a record of 21-6, obviously former featherweight champion, arguably the greatest featherweight champion of all time, 29 years of age, 5'11", 145 pounds, 69-inch reach. On the opposite side, we've got Calvin Kattar, 22-4, 32 years of age, 5'11", 145 pounds, 72-inch reach. They are virtually identical on everything except for the slight reach advantage in favor of Calvin Kattar. So I know you're going to break this down because you're a diehard fan of both guys. Obviously, wearing the New England Cartel sweater. You could tell Joe is a diehard Calvin Kattar fan. So before we kick things off, I'm going to lead here if you don't mind. We've got Calvin Kattar, who I think is the blueprint to beating Max Holloway. I mean, you look at Max Holloway's last 4 fights, he's got 3 losses. All 3 of them came by very similar fashion. Guys with great elite stand-up. Saw it with Alexander Volkanovski twice. Doesn't really matter how you guys score it. It was a close fight. Volkanovski showed that Max Holloway is beatable, and Dustin Poirier picked him apart on the feet. So I think Calvin Kattar has a very similar style in the sense that he can outbox Max Holloway across 5 rounds. That being said, Max Holloway has the ability to adapt. He's shown that in the past, and I think that could favor Max Holloway. And obviously, he's got the experience when it comes to high-level opposition. So how do you have it going? And first things first, man, what was your thoughts when this fight was announced?
My first thoughts when this fight was announced was that this is my dream matchup, man. This is almost to me better than what could come for them after. This could be better than the title fight. This could be better than a super fight. Other than outside of Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya and maybe hearing about Conor McGregor's return, there's no fight that could get me more excited than something involving the New England Cartel and Max Holloway. This is going to be a striker's paradise. I think this is a match made in heaven, and I was just so thoroughly excited to hear it. You've got Tyson Chartier, Rob Font, Calvin doing their thing. You mentioned it earlier. Guys like Calvin Kattar, you know, they don't have to do certain things they do, and then they step up. They take the Ige fight. They keep their name in the mix, and they leap over other people, and then they have an opportunity. And this is just great. You know, Kattar's been to Fight Island before. Holloway's been to Fight Island before. Both of them have experienced this before. That's nothing new to them. And Saturday night, they're going to see who's the better guy. So yeah, I love it. I think this is great that they're kicking things off on ABC. I think it's going to reach a whole other, new network of people watching this fight. And I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of cool that these are the guys that are doing it. At first, I was like, oh my God, really? You're going to have these 2 guys be the experiment? But the more I thought about it, I was like, you know what? Stylistically, this is a good matchup. So if you want a new fan to watch a fight, I think these 2 are great 2 guys to do it. Warriors, absolute warriors. Chael Sonnen brought up a great point where this could be like a new version of Stephan Bonner versus Forrest Griffin, which aired on Spike TV. People were tuning in left and right. I mean, you might have this here. This is highly a large chance that this is the fight of the year, possibly, and an absolute 5-round war between these 2 guys. So.
Yeah, I agree. So let's get into this breakdown. So we've got Max Holloway, who's obviously lost 3 of his last 4, 2 of them highly controversial, whether you thought he won or lost. There were 2 close fights with Alexander Volkanovski. The other loss came to Dustin Poirier when he went up to lightweight. On the other side, we've got Calvin Kattar, who has been on a tear, man. I mean, he's won 4 of his last 5. His only loss there came to Zabit, which a lot of people thought if there was an extra 2 rounds, he was going to likely take it. He took on Dan Ige, like you mentioned. He didn't have to. He took a step back in the division, put on a clinic against Dan Ige across 5 rounds. So it's a tough fight. We know Dan Ige is how tough he is. Obviously, he opened up Jeremy Stevens' forehead like a ketchup bottle with an elbow. So he's on a tear as well. So it almost seems like 2 guys who are – one guy's kind of on a downswing, the other guy's kind of on an upswing. And I think couldn't be a better time for both these guys to collide.
Exactly. Max Holloway, like you said, he's lost 3 of his last 4. But he's fighting Dustin Poirier, a larger opponent. He's fighting the champion. Now he has an actual featherweight like Calvin Kattar. And how is Max going to perform with his back against the wall. Then you have Kattar, who I like to call as a man on fire, man. He's just ascending up. And like Tyson said after Rob knocked out Marlon Moraes, many people were surprised, but he wasn't. Same thing if Calvin wins this fight. A lot of people may be surprised, but the people that have been watching Kattar since day one won't be. And one thing I'd like to say about both of these men is they both win and lose with honor. You'll never see people handle loss better than guys like, sometimes Dominic Cruz and Max Holloway, Calvin Kattar. They win and they lose in the same respect. They're just very honorable, and I love that about them. When they're in there, they're going to have that ultimate respect, which just makes the fights that much better. But let's jump into the statistical side of things.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I like this fight. Max Holloway, 21-6. He obviously has an edge in terms of 5-round fights. Obviously, title fight experience. I think that plays a factor in this fight. He's seen a little bit more of the 5-round, 4 or 5 rounds. That being said, Calvin Kattar is durable as well. I mean, you saw it against Dan Ige. Cardio isn't an issue for either one of these guys, and you tend to see that with Max Holloway. The longer the fight goes, the better he looks. Calvin Kattar isn't going to gas. So I don't think, it's going to be like one of those fights where cardio is going to play a factor. I think whoever's better is going to be better from rounds 1 to 5. And it's an interesting one. It really is. I know you've got a lot of notes written down there, so I'll let you take this over here with some of the stats you've got.
Hell yeah. And you're right. You have to test Max. You have to bring it to him. You have to get in his face. You have to show him when he's pointing down and he's getting serious like that you're matching his intensity, that you will meet him in the middle of the octagon, that he is human. You have to show Max he's human, because once he gets rolling, you can tell he lives off of that energy. He lives off of seeing his opponent show any sign of weakness. And Calvin's just not that dude, man. He's Boston bred, and you know what I mean? He keeps that same energy the entire fight. So it's just extremely exciting. But let's look into it. So it's a 23-fight sample size from Max Holloway, who's 17-6 in the UFC, an 8-fight sample size for Calvin Kattar, who's 6-2 in the UFC. Mind you, they both started their careers around the same time, just a 3-year differential. And Kattar had to do what Max Holloway had to do to get into the UFC a few times, a couple 4-fight, 3-fight win streaks, and eventually he found his way in. But as for how long their career's gone, they're practically identical. As for statistics, they're practically identical. So we've got a striker's paradise here. Significant strikes landed per minute. You've got Max Holloway at 6.47 and Calvin Kattar at 5. Strike accuracy, Max Holloway's at 44%. You've got Calvin Kattar at 41%, practically identical. Significant strikes absorbed per minute. You've got Max Holloway at 4.52. You've got Calvin Kattar at 5.5. Practically identical. Strike defense, you got Max Holloway at 61%, Calvin Kattar at 56%. And takedown defense, you have Max Holloway at 83% and Calvin Kattar at 88%. So these guys, statistically, for how much volume they throw, for what they take, for how well they defend takedowns, are identical. But like I said, Max Holloway has a much larger sample size. You've got Kattar, who trains with the Irish Mickey Ward and guys like Rob Font. He's always working on his technique and his fundamentals. He's always in a boxing ring. He's always working on his hands. And he's pummeling and grappling and doing jiu-jitsu as well. But I mean, these two guys are going to stand up, and we know they're going to box. And then you have Holloway, whose style is to use more of like a mixed martial arts boxing, where he uses wrist control, like he did against Brian Ortega, and he tries to mix things up with maybe more feints. Calvin Kattar's going to try and use, I think, his distance, his in and out, his lateral movement. And Holloway's going to do what he does best. Go head body, try to confuse the opponent, try to confuse Kattar. And Kattar's just going to match it. It's just going to be excellent. It's going to be great. Striker's paradise.
It really is. I mean, and the two stats that stand out to me is a takedown defense for both of those guys. This is going to be on the feet. Neither one of these guys is going to go to the ground. That being said, what do you think is the key to victory for both guys?
I think Max Holloway, I think he'd bode well to use more of a mixed martial arts style to win this fight. Kind of lean on Kattar. Use the cage if he can. Actually shoot for takedowns, even if they're not successful, but give him different level changes. Use leg kicks. Use some of the techniques and tools Moicano used to kind of work towards beating Calvin. And I think for Calvin, he just needs to stick to what he does best. Stick to his game plan. Bring Max into his world and try to outbox him. Stuff those takedowns when he can and put that 1-2 on him the same way he did Ricardo Lamas.
I think that's a great breakdown, because I think with Max too, like if you let him, if you hesitate, you saw it with Jose Aldo, if you're hesitant, Max Holloway will piece you up. And I think Calvin Kattar has to ignore the fact you're fighting Max Holloway. Like, you're fighting just You're fighting the same fighter you were fighting last time. Like, it's just another ordinary fighter. You can't get caught up in the fact you're fighting arguably the greatest featherweight of all time, because if you stand there in front of him, Max will piece you up. That being said, what's your prediction for this fight?
Man, it's tough. It's tough. And while I am wearing a Cartel hoodie, if Max Holloway checked his DMs years ago, I was messaging him, asking him for an Is What It Is headband, telling him good luck on his title fights. I am a diehard Max Holloway fan, but I'm New England born and raised. I love Tyson Chartier, Rob Font, Calvin, the whole crew. I got Kattar by decision.
Yeah, I think it's a close one. It's tough. I mean, we both obviously are diehard Tyson, Rob, and Calvin fans. There's more momentum right now going towards Calvin. That being said, Max Holloway has seen this. He's been through this. He's come back from losses against guys like Conor and Poirier before, rebounded brilliantly. When he lost to Volkanovski, he adapted. He looked better in the second fight than he did the first. I actually thought he won the second fight. So, yeah, Calvin is stylistically a rough matchup for Max, but Max can adapt. Max has shown that he can learn from his mistakes and come back better. And I think we're going to see a better version of Max Holloway. And I think the title fight experience, the 5-round experience, will be the difference maker. And I have Max Holloway winning. That being said, I think this is going to a decision either way, and it's going to be razor close. And I can't wait for this one.
It's going to be great, man. Potential fight of the year.
All right, there you have it. Our breakdown for Max Holloway and Calvin Kattar. We keep these short and sweet, try to list off as many points as we can in a short period of time. No, it's a lot to absorb, but we'd rather you guys absorb it all in 12 minutes than listen to us ramble for an hour and a half, which we can do. Yeah, if you guys haven't, be sure to check us out on fighterpath.com. Follow both me and Joe on Twitter and Instagram, and reach out if you guys have any questions. And we will be back. We have a couple more breakdown videos that we are going to post this week, and we'll see you guys next time.